Real Life. I'm Sarah Bernard, and this show is all about buying, selling, and owning real estate, one of my favorite topics. I'm a realtor myself and also a TV host, and I love the idea of home and what that means to all of us. But behind the emotional part of that word is a business, and most of us will be involved in it one way or another. I created this show so we could help you learn the ins and outs of buying and selling homes, financing them, staging them, and other great topics around the subject of real estate. Stay tuned for our latest episode of Real Life with Sarah Bernard.
When fire and water threaten your home, hand the cleanup over to the team that stays with you every step of the way in your journey back. 1-800-SERVPRO and ServPro.com, like it never even happened.
I have one of my favorite people in the business with me today. You've met her before, Andrea, owner of Design to Sell, one of the leading experts in the United States on preparing your home so you can sell it quickly and at the highest price possible. Welcome back, Andrea. I am so glad you're here. It's always great to have you because you give the people in our audience really great tips when it comes to sell their home. And sometimes people don't want to hear what you have to say, right? Because
totally.
we love our homes and they work perfectly for us, and we love all of the things that we've decorated with, things that people have given us over the years, right?
Exactly, of course.
So not everyone likes to see you.
No, of course not, because I mean work. I mean,
Right.
I got to come in, they know they have to do things. But yeah, it's true, their friends, their family, they come over here, house is beautiful, you don't need to really do anything at all. But that's not true, because what we have to do is look at the home and we have to merchandise it, because we have to make it appeal to the widest range of buyers.
And when you say merchandise, you're talking about almost like, that's a retail term, right?
Yeah,
Turning your home into a product, which is
Exactly.
something I talk about a lot.
Yes.
And it's true. And you have to detach, right, from your home as your home, your abode, the place that you've raised your family in. And now all of a sudden it has to appeal to others, to the public who've never walked in that home, right?
Exactly.
So what's the number one thing that you tell people?
The number one thing would be decluttering, because they've been in their home for a long time, so they've accumulated a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And what you don't want is when a buyer walks in there is to look at all of their accessories. Their eye gets distracted because they're looking at the accessories, not the bones of the
How
house.
does somebody know if they have too many things?
That's where we come in, and I can tell them and show them less is more. They think about less is more. So depersonalizing, decluttering, bringing your closets down 50%. So when people open up the closets, they're going to go, wow, look at all the storage. But if it's packed in there, they're going to think there's not enough storage in the house.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
And if they have a lot of personal photos around, really a buyer's not going to feel comfortable like this is going to be their home. They feel like they're intruding.
Right, I understand. So, okay, so what are some common things that you see when you walk in? Because everyone kind of lives this similarly, right? People have a lot of stuff on their kitchen counters because they need it every day, things like that. So what are the things that when you go in, you know 9 times out of 10, you're going to be telling people?
Kitchen countertops, bathroom vanities, fireplace mantles. I mean, it just goes on and on.
Okay, well, let's talk about fireplace mantles.
Okay.
So what do you, like, people have too much stuff on their
they got way
mantle,
too
or
much
they don't
stuff.
have anything?
Well, they usually have way too much. They have stuff on like the hearth, which you want to show off your beautiful fireplace that you
Right.
have, or they have the wrong size artwork above. And that's really important too, to have the right size in the home as far as the artwork goes. So they have way too much stuff. Once you start taking things away, they go, oh wow, that really looks pretty. We're
Yeah.
selling the fireplace, so you
Right.
can see the fireplace.
Okay, so what about kitchen counters?
Kitchen counters, way too much. We tell them the knives have to go. They have way too much stuff.
Wait.
Oh yeah, no.
The
knives gotta go.
like a set of knives
yeah.
can't be there?
No.
So
We prefer
I
not to.
really don't even understand that.
It's somewhat of a security issue though too.
Well, okay.
But we don't like to. We like to keep it clean. We want to have like a cookbook on a stand, and maybe a little greenery, and maybe a cute little canister set. That's it. Show off the counter space.
We talked about this in our last episode about how it almost needs to look like a display home, like you would see in a display home. In a display home, you're right, there's not going to be knives, there's not going to be
boxes
Even-
of Kleenexes, paper towels, all those kind
Right,
of things.
all of
No,
those
it
kinds
has
of-
to look like. And one of the big things too in the bathrooms is you want to make sure like all the toilet lids are down and there's no toilet brushes, toilet plungers. Nobody wants to see. You know,
All right,
that
that's
kind
a
of
good
stuff.
tip. You heard that.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. So, Sarah, when you go into a house, what do you normally see? Same thing?
A lot. Well, people have a lot of personal mementos. That's what
Yeah.
I see, and those
Yeah.
are the things that we need. You know, the kids' artwork and things like that that needs to be packed away, ready for the next home.
Because you're really pre-packing those.
Yeah.
You got to pack up anyway. And you know, the good news is once they go through all that, they're 50% done.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
then then you bring them the contract and it's all done.
Yeah, and it makes it easier to move. So those are great tips, and thank you so much for joining us today, Andrea. You heard what she's had to say, and I hope you got some good notes. We're going to see her demonstrate her tips in a house for sale at the end of the show, so be sure to stay tuned. Up next, we've got a fantastic guest who's going to talk to us about something very interesting that you may not know about buyers and sellers. Stay tuned. Our next guest is one of the best in the business. Nate Johnson is from St. Louis, Missouri, and in addition to owning a real estate business, he's been involved in leadership positions on the state and national levels in real estate, economics, and also community projects. Plus, he's a super fun guy who loves to be out and about in his hometown. Wouldn't you say, Nate?
Absolutely,
You're like
Sarah.
Mr. St. Louis to me. You love your community. You love being out and getting involved in everything that's going on. And you've also been a realtor for your entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen hundreds of people buying and selling homes.
Yes.
And you know, you're in it every day. It's part of your life. You know that business, that industry, but most people in our audience have maybe never purchased a home or only do it every 10 or 15 years, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And making that decision on how and where and when to buy a home is a big one. It's huge, right? So if you had someone, let's say mid-20s, just starting out, just maybe they've been renting for a few years and now they're thinking about getting into a home purchase, what advice would you give them about where to begin, where to even look?
Well, that's a great question, Sarah. You know, I really believe that home ownership is the sort of key to success in our communities. And when people invest in home ownership, they're really setting themselves up for financial freedom and financial success in the long run. And so the decision for people to invest in home ownership is extremely important. And one of the things that I talk with people about when they're thinking about buying their first home is, where do you want to be? Because often people are coming to St. Louis, they've not been here very long, or they may be relocating for a job, and they don't know where to start. And I think that one of the places for them to start is to understand where they spend their time, where they want to spend their time. Is it important for them to be close to their place of employment? Close to, you know, where they want to hang out. You know, I know some people say, look, I like hanging out here. I don't want to live anywhere near there, you know,
Yeah, right.
and I get that.
They want to distinguish. And it's what you're saying about St. Louis is true for any city, any
Yes.
city. So you might be relocating, you might be moving to Philadelphia, to New York, to Cleveland, anywhere, and you don't know the area, and so where do you even begin? But the other thing is, if you're a native to that city, we tend to go where we know, right, where we grew up. And it might be nice to broaden our horizons a little bit.
Yeah, we can definitely get into our little bubbles, and that can be a challenge if you're looking at home ownership in the area that you grew up in, because there may be other areas that you might consider that may make sense for you.
Yeah.
And what I would encourage people to do is, especially when they're not terribly familiar with the areas, is to drive around. You know, go and check out the neighborhood at different times of the day. Go during a rush hour, you know, go during, you know, Saturday night, you know, Sunday morning. See what the neighborhood's like at different periods of time that you're going to be there. Then you're going to learn. And asking your realtor, that the realtor can't really give you an accurate answer for that because everyone's experiences are different.
Yeah.
It's like when you ask if the neighborhood is safe, you know,
Yeah.
my definition of safety is completely different than yours.
Right.
So, you know, we really need to understand that, you know, you've got to do your own homework a little bit, and your realtor can be a good guide in helping you to discover some resources on how you're going to get the answers to the questions that you're looking for.
Right, and one of the questions we hear a lot and people think about is school district. And that 25-year-old who maybe isn't married, doesn't have kids yet, should they even be concerned about that?
Yeah, you know, I'll tell you, even when you're not, even when you don't need certain things in a home, it's important to have those things in a home because when you're thinking of investing in home ownership, you've got to not only think about what it is that you're looking for, but what is the person who you're going to sell the home to looking for.
So even if you're going to buy a home now and maybe won't be selling for another 10 years, should you still be thinking about that?
Absolutely.
So
and now it should,
as from an economic standpoint, like an investment then, is what
absolutely,
you're saying.
it is
Okay.
an investment.
Yeah.
Home ownership is an investment. It's also a place that you live. So let's be clear, you don't want to necessarily make all of your decisions based on, you know, when you're going to resale.
Yeah.
You want to be happy there as well. But when things are equal or when things are close, you want to err on the side of making the decision that is going to be more in alignment with what the consumers are going to be looking for when the time comes for you to
Okay,
sell
so
it.
this is some really good advice from Nate. I love this because it's true. And you know, I know personally I've made decisions thinking just about me and not about that future buyer for my home.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned school districts. School districts, although not the end all, they are a factor. And when you're looking at two particular homes, and one is in one school district that is better than the other, you know, maybe you consider that if all things are equal otherwise. You know, think about what the trade-offs are, and you know, do your pros and cons list. Right. What are the pros of this property? What are the cons of it? And make sure that you are looking at it from an objective standpoint, and then also subjectively, because you're in love with the way that this home, you know, looks or this particular neighborhood. But look at all those things. You got to marry them to sort of come to the right decision as far as the home that you're going to invest in.
Yeah, and how much weight should you put on the surrounding area? So let's say beautiful home, maybe it had been a tear down and it's a brand new home in a neighborhood that still has homes that haven't been updated, renovated. Maybe you've got the hoarder next door. How much does that impact your decision? Because that might go away, right, in the 10 years.
You know, it might go away, but it might not. And that's a fact. That's something to consider. You have to look at the trends of how the neighborhood is evolving. If you are the first mover in a neighborhood that, so where you're now the most expensive home in the neighborhood because you have the new shiny home and all the rest of the homes may not be in line with the value of your home, that could be a bit of a challenge for a while. Yeah. Because you are, you know, you're not on par with your neighbors, or your neighbors aren't on par with you. So as a result, your home likely isn't appreciating at the same rate as the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You know, there's that adage that you don't typically want to be the most expensive home in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, that's exactly what you are, is the most expensive home in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, it could definitely turn around, and if you have a plan or see a trend where this is going to happen, so although right now you may be the most expensive home, you know, there's a trend that all the rest of the homes are kind of coming along.
Right.
Then you're going to be able to maximize the value and maybe, you know, create a bonus for yourself based on being that first mover.
Yeah, great tips. Thank you so much for being with us today, Nate. Really appreciate it, and great advice for our potential buyers or current buyers right now in our audience. My next guest has one of the most interesting jobs in real estate, and you may not think of it as a real estate job, but this guy is a must-know if you want to sell your home. Stay tuned to meet the guy who knows your goods.
When fire and water threaten your home, hand the cleanup over to the team that stays with you every step of the way in your journey back. 1-800-SERVPRO and SERVPRO.com, like it never even happened.
One of the biggest obstacles that I hear when it comes to selling a home is, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Packing, sorting, storing, selling, it can be overwhelming unless you know someone like my guest today who specializes in helping you not only get rid of the extras you have, but maybe make a little money from it. Welcome Luby Kelly, owner of Mo Modern, a well-known and very successful estate sale company. You do something that probably a lot of people would love to do themselves, but really don't know how to do it. And you got to figure out how to value people's stuff and how to help them get there. So how do you start? Somebody calls you up.
Well, when somebody calls, I know that they're interested in really is just to move everything out of their house one way or another. Hopefully it's to make some money like you said, but a lot of times it's just offering a service to the people to make sure they empty the home so that it can be sold or it can be staged. I mean, it needs to be
how do you know if you need an estate sale versus just having a garage sale, or what kind of people are you working with?
It's really the difference between one whole house and one room. So if you feel like you just have one room of contents, it's probably not enough to pay a service to do that for you. Then you just have a garage sale, pretty easy. If you're interested in taking only one room and then selling the rest of the house, which is what I usually am called for, then that's when you call an estate sale company.
So people call you and say, I want to sell everything that's in my house. So who would be that person? I mean, obviously my mind goes to someone who wants to start all over with all new furniture, but also seniors who are moving to a different kind of living situation, maybe?
Right, a lot of estate sales have turned more or less into moving sales. So a lot of people are changing their life every 5 to 7 years or so, but other people are changing the life that they lived for 30 to 40 years and they want to move into a retirement community or maybe with a family member, especially during COVID time. So they want to just take a little bit of their house, not everything that they've had for so long, and move out. And then so they just want to leave this stuff behind for someone else, possibly donate, recycle, dispose, whatever you need to do to move on to the house. The money is always in, as far as making money, it's in the sale of the home. The sale of the stuff is more or less usually harder for people.
Oh, that's a question I've got to ask you. Sure. So I know when I've been in the homes, they think that this grandfather clock is worth so much money.
Right.
And then when reality comes in, are you dealing with that all the time where they have the perception that there is worth so much more than what it really is?
Sure, and perceived value is really a thing we combat all the time, but we are certified appraisers, and most people in the business try to be, and you try to just educate the people as to your perception of the thing I see every week, let alone 10 times a week, where they've just seen one in their house forever. And it might have been a clock they got as a gift for working for 50 years or what have you, but really it is a clock that everyone in that neighborhood that worked in that community probably got that clock for working there 40 years.
And furniture trends change, and with that changes value, right? So you have to stay up to date on that.
Right. I mean, newer current furniture that people would go to the store and buy now, which some people are selling in their estate or moving sales, that sells very easily and quickly. Out-of-date furniture, which is over 10 years old, typically people aren't as interested in, and it's prevalent. It's everywhere. Everywhere. You know, mid-century modern is really popular now, so if you can find those little modern niches, definitely the people will buy those quickly, absolutely.
What about antiques? Do you work with that?
We do, all the time. We actually work with everything, whether it's jewelry or antiques or current furniture or modern or just useful household items. But antiques are a little harder to sell. There's less people interested in them. It's all about supply and demand.
Yeah.
So if people are not building dining rooms into their homes anymore, dining sets are not exactly something people are looking for. So there's not as much of a demand, and there's a humongous supply. Huge.
Right. So when somebody calls you, what's the next step? What happens? You go to their house and you look at what they've got?
Right, I just go to kind of evaluate what they have and how long they've lived there, what items are there for sale, what are specialty items over just household useful items, and try to inform them what I think that their house would bring in at an estate sale, a gross sale. And I explain my services, which is I make a commission based on those items, and then what the process would be, which is we do a setup during the week, we do a sale on Saturday and Sunday to the public, and then after that we usually remove all the items that were unsold and we donate them or dispose of them however they need to be done.
What if Andrea hasn't been there yet and it's completely cluttered because they haven't heard her story? And do you deal with that?
Oh, I love cluttered houses. It's much more interesting. It's really about variety.
Well,
I love clutter.
because he can sell it.
Right. Most estate sales are full of, you want a variety and you want volume. So if you just have 10 items, you won't really get very many people to the sale. You won't be able to make very many sales.
Yeah.
You know, it
Do you
just
have any
depends.
of your items online? So if somebody can't go over the weekend, do you post anything online?
Right, well, we advertise all of our estate sales online, so you have to come to the sale to make it fair to the mass public that comes to these sales, because we get, 1,000 people walk through a house in a weekend. It's a lot. A lot of potential buyers, of course, of homes too. But the other thing that we've done during COVID is we do a lot of online estate sales where no one comes to the house. I just set up the house and sell items individually online for the client.
So that became popular during COVID. Do you see that trend continuing with online sales?
I do. If I do have 500 to 1,000 people walk through the house, and in a estate sale that's online, I only have 50 buyers, but they bring in the same amount of money. It's totally bizarre to me, and it's a new trend for sure. But my point is, I see those people continuing to buy and continuing to evolve, whereas the people coming to the public estate sale are a completely different group of people. I don't see them mixing and matching. It's very strange, but new.
And so what happens to the stuff that doesn't sell in the estate sale?
Yeah, great question.
Most of that stuff is donated. We have a clean out crew that handles that. We some items are resold in these clean out crews, have antique mall booths or whatever, that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's donated and disposed of, thrown away, recycled if we can. I mean, the entire estate sale process is a recycling process, because you're trying to move things that are useful to people that have use for them. But some of those people don't walk in the door, and you have to eventually get rid of a dining set to somewhere.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing to get rid of?
China cabinet.
China
Okay,
cabinet.
there you go.
Okay,
We're going to
that's
wrap
it.
with that. Actually,
Okay,
that's a
good.
good one. Don't buy China cabinets.
Yeah,
Right.
don't buy China.
Right.
Okay. Stay with us, because we're circling back with Andrea, who's going to take us into a real house that's getting ready to go on the market. You'll love the magic when Andrea goes to work and the transformation that she can create in no time at all. Let's go see her in action. So we are at a real house today that's going to go on the market, and Andrea's here with us. Come on up, Andrea, and we're going to actually go in, and she's going to show us what she does when a seller wants her to come and get their house ready. So we're going to start here outside, Andrea.
Definitely.
And talk about the exterior, because this is important too for sellers to be thinking about.
It's actually very critical.
Okay.
Because it's first impressions. So my quick recommendation would be we remove the live plant here, cut back the bushes so they're all even. I would remove any kind of yard art, especially, the reef on the front door. The new doormat would be wonderful.
Okay.
And the chimes, different things like that.
Okay, so
Just
get
kind
rid of the
clean it up.
miscellaneous artwork,
Miscellaneous,
clean up
yeah.
the bushes, get rid
Right.
of the potted plants that maybe aren't planting as well
Exactly.
right
Yeah.
now. And then
Yeah.
a new front doormat, and wreaths sometimes are just clutter on a
Right.
door.
And take a look at kind of like the trim and make sure maybe the front door needs to be repainted
Right.
a little bit.
Right, and I'm looking at some gutter stuff going on up here, just
Right.
clean that up. So we have to
Exactly.
think about photographs and what buyers are going to think when they come up to the house.
Absolutely.
All right,
First
perfect.
impression.
Good, so let's go inside,
I'm
and we're gonna
excited.
do a little entry hall work, okay?
Great, I can't wait to see
Okay.
it.
Come on in. All right, so this is the entry
Okay.
to their house, and tell me let's start kind of in this area right when you walk in. What do you see? What would you change?
Well, there's way too much in here, and what we have to work with is possibly moving out this rack with all the hats.
Okay.
We've got, and the umbrellas, we've got to remove the rug here.
And that's going to open up the light
my God,
too,
it's
and
just blocking
it's going
it
to
right
brighten
now.
up this whole space.
And then here, I think we want to just kind of take everything off of here, maybe bring some different accessories in. And actually, I'd like to just pull this out and maybe put some other things in here, make it a little bit more decorative. And then I believe that we should really pull all the coats, off of that.
Okay, so let's
100%
start with
better.
right here. Okay, so
Okay.
the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move this out.
Definitely.
So let's get rid of this right now.
Okay.
I think we can probably just lift this and move it,
You
and
got it?
this will go in the
Okay.
packed away, let's say.
Okay.
Pick up these hats. Okay. All right, so, and then all of these things, we're going to get rid of
Yes.
this as well.
We're gonna
Okay.
roll up the rug too.
All right,
So
and I'll start moving these things.
this out. Oh, look how it's already started to open up.
Okay, so we've got personal photos, which
Lots
you
of personal
you
photos.
always say
Yeah, live plants we don't want to have here.
no live plants. We're going
No.
to get rid of the orchid as well.
Yes.
It's live.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I can
All right.
use that little silver. What I like to try to do is use their accessories as much as possible too.
Okay. Now
So I
what?
think we ought to just start pulling these.
So household organization doesn't matter when you're selling your home.
Not really.
That's the important thing to remember.
That's right.
It's all about the decor.
This is your first room walking in, so you really want this to kind of stand out.
And you want to keep the silver vase,
Yeah, it's
okay?
cute. We can use
We
that.
can work with that. Move the paperweight. I think that pretty much takes care of that.
Okay.
Okay.
perfect. So now what we need to do is move this piece.
Okay, so we're going to just get rid of this
I
completely.
think we need to get rid of it.
Okay, so we have cleared out the space, Andrea, as directed.
What
and
a difference it makes.
Actually, it really does. I mean, it
really
feels
opens it up.
brighter and lighter. We
Right.
got rid of that big piece of furniture here. We got rid of the hat rack, and we got rid of all the
Well,
baskets.
it opened up the stairwell
Yeah.
too.
All right, so you've got your basket of
Right.
accessories. So what are you going to do? Let's
I'm just
go.
gonna start.
I'm going to just kind of watch you because
We're just
this
gonna
is
kinda-
your area of
We're just
expertise.
gonna kind of fill in just as quickly as we can. We don't want to overdo it by any means because
Okay.
we want the focus to be the house.
And so I noticed you've brought in a plant, but it's not real. So that
Not
is
real,
something that
because
sellers,
they can never die.
right? Sellers don't have to worry
No,
about that,
right.
right? Okay.
And I even like to use artificial fruit just because, again, it can't die.
Oh, this is nice. So just a little something
Just a
in
little
every
something
cubby.
Here and there. Yeah. I mean, it just makes
And a
it
lot of
easier.
people have these little accessories
Oh, they
in their
do.
home.
So
It's just
what I
a,
normally like to do is just, go around the house and pull their accessories
Yeah.
as much as possible and try to use those. But sometimes they don't have the right things, so we can provide that for them.
perfect. So just like that little silver vase was theirs.
Right. So we use that. Now we've got every little shelf.
Look at
covered.
that. Is
And,
that
yeah,
it?
we could just put, we could put more books on there if we wanted to. But just for a quickie, I mean,
Right, and this would
works.
show a buyer it's neutral and it's not anybody's stuff.
Nothing specific.
And it shows them how they can use the space.
Exactly.
It can be a home
it
organizing
just
space.
Really, I mean,
Yeah.
even if we take this away, look how open now.
This looks
everything
good. Looks good. And you did that in like a minute. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of Real Life. I'm Sarah Bernard. You keep coming back and we're going to keep bringing you great information about real estate.